keep it off throughout the lecture. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Nashtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamani Haripriya Hare Krishna. So welcome everyone. Today we shall be discussing the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is divided into 3 sections. First 6 chapters, middle 6 chapters, and the last 6 chapters. The first 6 chapters are called as Karma Yoga. Middle 6 chapters, the essence Bhakti Yoga. Chapter number 13 to 18, they're called as Jnana Yoga. So this is the last chapter in this section of Karma Yoga. It's called Dhyana Yoga. So 3rd chapter and 5th chapter had been entitled as Karma Yoga. Very little difference. And this is Dhyana Yoga. So Bhagavad Gita is essentially known as a Yoga Shastra. It is not a Viyoga Shastra. Viyoga means separation, disconnect. It does not disconnect us from society as many people think. It rather connects us with our life, with our real self, with society more deeply. That is why it's called Yoga Shastra. Yoga comes from the word yujya, and yujya means to connect with the Supreme. So in Gita, Krishna gives various techniques of yoga. That means to connect with him through our dhyana, through our jnana, through our bhakti. So through our karma. So essentially, what is the purpose of Gita? Every living entity who is in the material world is the one who voluntarily chose to disconnect himself from the Lord. As the Bible also says, this example is given, and this is a common theme among all the scriptures of the world. Why are we suffering? Why are we there in the material world? We are spiritual by nature. We discussed in the 2nd chapter. That's the first thing Krishna explained. But we have a material body. Characteristics of the spirit soul are the soul is eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. Despite being eternal, we are made to go through death. Despite being full of bliss, we are made to go through sufferings, old age, disease, death. Despite being full of knowledge, we are made to forget. Why? Because we are in a different environment. For example, a person may have some power living in India, and suppose he goes to the United States. There he will not have so much power because he's in a foreign environment. His movement, his powers would be curtailed naturally because there different laws are in action. Suppose it is summer in India, so I have to wear different clothes. When I go to a country where it's winter, I have to wear different clothes because the environment is different over there and the laws are also different. Similarly, Although we are spiritual, eternal, we never die, but we are in a foreign environment. And this material world works under the laws of karma, modes of nature. And therefore, we have, and this world is dukhalayam or shashwatam. Everything in this world is temporary, and this world is a world of misery. So we cannot question, why do I suffer? Why do things end? Because we are in a different land. If we want things to be eternal, we have to go to that land where the soul can definitely aspire to go, and human life is the best chance, and that is a spiritual world. Just like there are the hellish planets, there are heavenly planets, there are lower planetary systems, middle planetary systems, of which Earth is the part, and then there's similarly there is a spiritual world. And human life is the best opportunity where we can regain our original spiritual nature. That means our original spiritual body. And we don't have to be covered by a material body. When we come into this material world, this is a world of matter. To survive here, we have to be covered with a different set of clothes. That's why Gita compares bodies to different types of clothes. So all we are trying to do now is we want to get out of this entanglement. And that can only happen when we connect with God, because Krishna's name is Mukunda. Mukunda means the giver of mukti. Nobody else can do it. And for that, we need to connect with him. So at the beginning of creation only, the knowledge is also sent into this material world. And Gita, as we heard in the 4th chapter, has been existing since time immemorial. So in human society, at least it's been there for more than 20 million years. So we studied the history of the Gita. It was lost, then Krishna revived it again through Arjuna. So through various means, the Lord is trying to always connect us so that we can develop that aspiration to go back to our real parents where we belong. And different ways. So all of us in the material world at the moment, we have nothing to be proud of because we are all criminals, we are all rebellious souls. We have all rebelled against God, and that's why we are here now. Just like a law-abiding citizen is free to move around in the city, but somebody who breaks the laws has to be sent to a different place, prison house. So material world is compared again and again to a prison house, a karagar, a deep dark well where people are stuck. So Gita is one such attempt by the Lord where he is trying to reconnect us back with him. Because by default, we have been made in such a way that we can only be happy when we are in union with him, yoga. And that's what Krishna has been trying to explain. He spoke about karma yoga, and I was going to speak about dhyana yoga. Last 6 chapters, jnana yoga, middle 6 chapters, mainly focusing on the bhakti yoga. No, the topic has taken so many chapters as bhakti yoga. Last 6 chapters are called jnana yoga, but there is bhakti in every chapter. Ultimately, Krishna ends every chapter with emphasis on bhakti yoga. That means connecting with him through devotion or devotional service. As Srila Prabhupada, the founder of ISKCON, he translates it. So why is Krishna discussing different topics if ultimately bhakti yoga, engagement in his direct service, hearing, chanting, remembering, offering prayers of serving deities, the Supreme? Because not everybody is on the same platform. And not everybody can connect to the level of bhakti yoga. Some are connecting through their karma, through dhyana, through jnana. They're trying to find out the whereabouts of God, or they're trying to understand the workings of this material world. So therefore, Krishna is catering to everyone's needs. He's explaining every topic. But in the end, he ends it with emphasis on bhakti, devotional service, surrender to him, just coming to him, connecting with him directly. What is direct connection with Krishna? Direct is when we are engaged in hearing about him, chanting his names, remembering him, offering prayers, worshiping his deity, using our possessions directly in his service. So if some of us are doing it, all of us are doing it, then we are actually engaged in bhakti yoga. This activity at the moment is the highest form of yoga. It's called bhakti yoga. So direct connection. So dhyana yoga, Krishna explains in great detail in this chapter. See, ultimately, what is the aim? To connect yoga with the Lord, with the Supreme Lord. That cannot happen unless our mind and senses are in control. So all forms of yoga are ultimately meant to help us control the mind and senses, because the mind and senses are going in different directions and they keep us entangled. Senses are hankering for sense gratification, material sense gratification, and therefore from one body to the other, from one species to the other, we have been jumping. It's not uh, necessary that once a human being, you will always be a human being. It all depends on the desires that we cultivate. So I may be thinking, I want to live like live in a nice bungalow all my life. Well, that's a good desire, but may not be possible in a human body only. One person had asked me, I said, yeah, but not necessarily. She's thinking about how do I lose human body if I have this desire? Because according to the desires, the bodies are given. And I said, it's not necessary, because I've seen people's farmhouses and the dogs are living there throughout the year. The owners are only visiting once or twice. So we have to be very, very careful, and we have to purify our desires. We should know what kind of desires must be cultivated, what kind of desires must be avoided. And it's very simple. If our desires are only, we are working hard only so that I can eat better, sleep nicely, and defend whatever I have and enjoy with whatever I have, then definitely a human body, animal body is guaranteed, because these are animalistic propensities. But if we rise above this, we inquire about God, engage in His service, then definitely next body will be an elevated one. And if we are fortunate, we might begin our spiritual body. Now, somebody may accept it or not, but that doesn't really make any difference, because the laws will work. You may not accept the red signal. Oh, I don't accept red signal. Pink is my favorite color. I'll not stop. But the law will catch us. Similarly, there are laws of nature in action. Whether we accept them or not, we have to be subjected to those laws. So the main problem is the mind and senses are in total disarray. They're running haywire. So Krishna says, with the help of mind, one should try to regulate them. Human life is meant for regulation. It's not meant for irregular or unregulated sense gratification. It's not that just do it. That is animalistic. We are supposed to think, because we are held responsible for every word and every action, because we have the free will to choose. Therefore, we are also held responsible for the choices we make. An animal is not held responsible. So we have to be very, very careful about our words, about our actions, because everything is noted down. We are accountable for everything. So Krishna here also is again explaining that there is a way one renounces actions, and then there is something like giving up the uh, fruitive activities, giving up working for one's own pleasure. Both are in one sense good, but working in devotion and trying to connect with the Lord with our work is better than renouncing work. And somebody who's more elevated, uh, renunciation of activities, material activities, is recommended. But somebody who's a neophyte, not everybody is elevated. For them, they must continue to work, and they must use their work, the profits of those work, in the service of the Lord. That way, try to connect. And somebody is more advanced, he can totally give up material activities and focus on the spiritual activities. But most of the people in this world are not so elevated, so they are uh, expected to connect through their work, through their dhyan, gyan. So Krishna says one must deliver himself with the help of the mind and not degrade himself, because mind and senses can really take down a person to the lowest levels when the senses are not in control. When you hear about scams, scandals, what is this? This is all about mind and the senses going out of control. And when a person is in that consciousness, he ends up doing things which are immoral, which are sinful, just to satisfy their mind and senses. So one must learn to control them. It's not like, oh, we should not do these things. Andar se aana chahiye. That's like nonsense. Animals think like that. Because we are held, if we were in the body of animals, then we would have said that. But we are in the body of human being, and knowing fully well that we will be held responsible for every word and action that we speak, we have to be careful. whatever we eat, whatever we do, the way we earn, the way we enjoy, the way we move around in this world. So one must not let the mind just become the biggest enemy. Krishna says mind is the biggest friend, at the same time could be the greatest enemy as well. So one must learn to control it. Only a controlled mind is uh, the greatest friend. And this is the only chapter where Krishna has spoken about the mind few times. So we'll discuss about this a bit later. So in the previous chapter, Krishna, towards the end, if you remember, he introduced Dhyana Yoga in 2 verses and Bhakti Yoga he introduced in the last verse. Because previous to that, he was explaining how a person can become happy, how a person can get liberation from material bondage, from frustration, suffering. And he has introduced 2 methods, Dhyana Yoga and Bhakti Yoga. So now in this, he's speaking about Dhyana Yoga to attain that perfection, to attain that liberation, Mukti, bondage. Say Mukti. Mukti doesn't just mean after death. Mukti means even while living, you become free from frustration and suffering. So how to achieve that? That is possible only through yoga. And here he's talking about Dhyana Yoga, one of the processes. Then for Bhakti Yoga, he will give 6 chapters. What happens when a person conquers the mind? Krishna explains, we should understand that the person has already reached perfection. And when a person is able to control his mind, then he is able to remain equiposed in happiness, distress, honor, dishonor, praise, criticism. It's only the mind which makes us suffer. Somebody says something, and if we don't take it seriously, we don't suffer. But if we start thinking, analyzing it, then there is something called paralysis by analysis. We go crazy, we go insane. But somebody who has his mind under control, he becomes immune to the dualities of this world. Honor, dishonor, praise, criticism, happiness, distress, friend, enemy, everyone and everything appears equal. He's able to remain equiposed. And he sees everything equally, whether it be pebbles, stones, or gold. Everything appears equal to him. It's just the mind which has been making us go from one species to the other and from one universe to the other. Uncontrolled mind, uncontrolled sense gratification, because first the desires arise within the mind and then they are manifest through senses. So ultimately, mind is the biggest culprit. In the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a miserly person. He didn't share his money, his wealth also with his family. One day the family got so fed up, they kicked him out of the house and took away all his wealth. So for some time he felt bad, but then he came to the realization that sometimes people think it is the bad planets that are the cause of my distress. No. Sometimes people think it's my enemies. No. Sometimes they think it's my body. No. So he lists a few things which people consider as the cause of their distress, suffering. But ultimately, he says, no, it's none of these. It's only our mind. If our mind is in proper condition, then even if there are 1,000 causes of distress, we'll still be happy. And this has been proved by science also, their conclusion also. If the mind is in good shape, nobody can harm us. Nobody can really hurt us. Nobody can make us feel depressed. If the mind is in bad shape, then even if somebody smiles at us, we'll be miserable. So now Krishna explains the process of Dhyana Yoga. First, he explains how one must control the mind and senses, because that's what keeps us away from God. They're running haywire. One must learn to control. We must tell the mind what to do. We should not allow the mind to tell us what to do. Problem here is that we take the mind too seriously. But we must remember, we are not the mind. Just like we are not the body, we are not the mind also. We don't have to take the mind's demand seriously. But we take everything that appears in our mind very, very seriously. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of ISKCON, he mentioned the most powerful weapon to deal with the mind is neglect. Neglect, neglect, neglect. Do what is right. Don't do what your mind tells you to do. Make your intelligence strong. The function of the intelligence is to discriminate. Think with your intelligence. Mind is telling us to do something, okay, but what is right? And then do that. So he has given two methods to practice yoga, because then to connect with the Supreme Lord and then to become peaceful, to become free from dualities. That's like these qualities Krishna mentioned. But how to come to that stage? First, he talks about Dhyana Yoga, like the qualities you mentioned, becoming immune to dualities. One process he explains is Dhyana Yoga. And he has described it in great detail. The reason, if it's not so important, why? I'll discuss after I read through these verses. I'm just going to read them without giving explanation and just listen to every point Krishna is talking about, because many people try to perform meditation, dhyana yoga. Of course, their dhyana yoga is absolutely nonsense. Meditation on nothing, meditation on light. What is this? Meditation on God is the process. And where have these things come from? So Krishna is recommended. This is the supreme authority talking about how dhyan must be performed or should be performed or has to be performed. Nowadays, we people are just giving thousands of rupees just to practice some breathing exercises, and the Lord has made a system where we are naturally able to breathe, and we are not paying Him anything. It's just to practice some breathing. So, what is actual meditation? Here it is. And then after you hear this, then we see whether we are really performing meditation or we are just being cheated. So, Krishna says to practice yoga or meditation, one should go to a secluded place and should lay kusha grass on the ground and then cover it with a deer skin and a soft cloth. The seat should be neither too high nor too low and should be situated in a sacred place. The yogi should then sit on it very firmly and practice yoga to purify the heart by controlling his mind, senses, and activities and fixing the mind on one point. So the prerequisite is mind has to be controlled first. Do we have our mind control before we start practicing yoga? No. तो हम तो इधर ही उड़ गए काफी. Like there was a teacher in IIT, and he would love to fail students. So he would set such a difficult question paper. He would give 10 questions to his class and he would challenge them. जहाँ जाना है जाओ, बुक खोलना है, हॉस्टल जाके आना है, बाजार घूम के आना है, come back and let me see how many of you can solve the questions. Open challenge. Do whatever you want to write answers to these questions, because he would set the question paper in such a way that the output of the first question, the answer to the first question, would be an input to the second question, and then the output of second question, that means the answer to the second question, would be the input for the third, and that way. So if you fail to solve the first question, all other answers will be wrong only. So when people are trying to practice yoga without proper mind control, it is not going to really work. We are where our mind is. Meditation without mind control, without sense control, it is simply a show. So one has to go to a secluded place. Impossible to find a secluded place nowadays. One should hold one's body, neck, and head erect in a straight line and stare steadily at the tip of the nose. Thus, with an unagitated, subdued mind, devoid of fear, completely free from sex life, one should meditate upon me within the heart and make me the ultimate goal of life. There are many, many prerequisites. But ultimately, Krishna says one should meditate upon me, knowing me the ultimate goal of life. But are these people doing that? Are we doing that? Thus, practicing constant control of the body, mind, and activities, the mystic transcendentalist, his mind regulated, attains to the kingdom of God or the abode of Krishna by cessation of material existence. There is no possibility of one's becoming a yogi or Arjuna if one eats too much or eats too little, sleeps too much or does not sleep enough. Just see the conditions. He who is regulated in his habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. All these are parts of the Dhyana Yoga part. It's not just we sit and breathe and meditate on nothing and then that's what yoga is. All these are different parts. One has to be very, very disciplined in his habits of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. We are awake when we are supposed to be sleeping. Srimad Bhagavatam clearly explains when it talks about the symptoms of Kali Yuga that in Kali Yuga, people's life duration will be shortened, not because of any other reason, but mainly because of wrong lifestyle. You might be thinking, but life duration is fixed. How will it get shortened? No. I read something some days back in Bhagavatam which totally changed my perspective. It is mentioned just like by living a pious life, one can increase his life duration simply. So therefore, by wrong lifestyle, by wrong activities, by sinful lifestyle, one also shortens his life duration. So life duration can also change. There are people who are supposed to live for 70, people they have died at the age of 60, 30, 40, like that, wrong lifestyle. So are we doing that also? When the yogi by practice of yoga disciplines his mental activities and becomes situated in transcendence, devoid of all material desires, is said to be well established in yoga. That means mind control fully hona chahiye if you want to be a yogi, sense control, and then total cessation of material desires. Ah, then one is known to be somebody who is well established in yoga. And as a lamp in a windless place does not waver, so the transcendentalist whose mind is controlled remains always steady in his meditation on the transcendent self. In order to be able to focus completely on the Lord, we have to withdraw mind and senses from everything else. Is that easy? Such a difficult process. Sit in a secluded place, eyes, vision focused on the tip of the nose, straight, and head, neck, and the back in one line on a kusha grass, deer skin, all these things. In the stage of perfection called trance, samadhi, when a person is focusing, then one's mind is completely restrained from mental, material activities by practice of yoga. So what is happening here is, here we have to force ourselves to not let the mind get distracted towards other activities and then simultaneously force the mind to focus on the Lord. But it's very difficult with this process. So when somebody is able to manage that and after going through complete mind control, sense control, discipline, lifestyle, everything, then gradually one comes to a point where mind begins to cooperate. This perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind and to relish and rejoice in the self. Then one comes to the realization that he's not the body, he's the spiritual self, a spirit soul. In that choice state, when we start connecting with our spiritual nature, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness realized through transcendental senses. So there also the enjoyment continues, but now the enjoyment is through spiritual senses on a spiritual platform. Right now we're trying to enjoy through material senses, and anything which is matter has to have a beginning and an end. But through spiritual senses, when we start enjoying, our enjoyment is ever increasing, full of variety and unlimited, as many of you might have experienced who have been practicing the process of Krishna consciousness for some time now. Established thus, one never departs from the truth because you gain a higher taste. You don't want to go back to the old lifestyle. And upon gaining this, he thinks there is no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of greatest difficulty. When one comes to such platform, then we will not be bothered by the apparent changes of this world, the dualities of this world. One becomes equiposed. This indeed is actual freedom from all miseries arising from material contact. So this is the ultimate result of Dhyana Yoga. But look at the process, first of all. Itna karne ke baad, then you come to this process. Stage. One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith and not be deviated from the path. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of mental speculation and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. Again, control, 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 control. Ye nahi karna, ye nahi khana, neti, neti, neti. How difficult it is. Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence, sustained by full conviction. And thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should be think of nothing else. From wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. He is beyond the mode of passion. He realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme, and thus he is freed from all reactions to past deeds. So after going through such hard work, when we are able to now focus completely on the Supreme Lord, Krishna says, on him, then one realizes his spiritual identity and how he is spiritual, the Lord is spiritual. And thus, with this kind of meditation, one becomes free from the reactions to his karma. Ultimately, what do we achieve by focusing our energies on Krishna? We become free from the sinful karma, which is the root cause of distress in life. So therefore, for our own benefit, we need to connect with him. We need to remember him, chant his names if we want to be happy. Somebody may ask you, what do you get by attending Gita lectures? What do you get by attending Bhagavad? What do you get by serving Krishna? Say, why are you doing it? Just say to become happy. Because ultimately, they are also working hard only to become happy. But there, it's between them and their destiny. But here, it's between us and Krishna. And Krishna is somebody who changes destiny when somebody takes shelter of him. He changes all the rules. Thus, the self-controlled yogi, again the word controlled, constantly engaged in yoga practice, becomes free from all material contamination and achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to the Lord. A true yogi observes me in all beings and also sees every being in me. Indeed, the self-realized person sees me, the same Supreme Lord, everywhere. For one who sees me everywhere and sees everything in me, I'm never lost, nor is he ever lost to me. Somebody who attains perfection through this dhyana yoga process. Such a yogi who engages in the worshipful service of the super soul, knowing that I am the super soul, that means the Paramatma. What do the yogis do? They meditate on the form of the Lord in the heart. The Lord is situated in everyone's heart, whether it be the body of an ant or an elephant or a human being. Literally, the Lord is situated as Paramatma in everyone's heart. And his functions are twofold: Upadrashta and Anumanta. Whatever desire the soul has, he sanctions it, and then he just oversees Upadrashta. He doesn't get involved in the action and reaction. We desire, and then we only have to suffer the consequences or enjoy the reward. The Lord does not get involved. So we are only happiness for our own. We are only responsible for our happiness and distress because we make the choices. We have the free will. When we use it properly, we are rewarded. When we misuse it, have the wrong kind of desires, then we are punished also. He is a perfect yogi who, by comparison to his own self, sees the true equality of all beings. Then a person also develops equal vision when he comes to the perfectional stage in both their happiness and their distress, O Arjuna. So how Krishna has nicely put it. Now, Dhyana Yoga, he says, oh, Arjuna, there are two ways to attain perfection. So there is this process of Dhyana Yoga. You have to go to a secluded place, sit in a straight line, and on a kusha grass, and then focus on the tip of your nose with half closed eyes. Keep the mind and control senses totally under control. Try to focus on me and this and that. And don't eat too much, don't sleep too much, don't eat too little, don't sleep too little. And be regulated in your habits of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. And all the details he has spoken about. And now he speaks about the result of that, how person becomes free from bondage. So very nicely is put it, but he's being sarcastic here. Reason, then why is he explaining it in such a great detail? So that we are discouraged from engaging in this, just to let us know that how difficult it is to connect with him, to attain perfection of human life. He has explained the details. If you want to do this, all right, but these are the details involved. Then you come to this stage. I'm not saying don't do it. That people sometimes they don't want somebody to do something, so they present the difficult part and say, this is the, so do it, go ahead. So Krishna is being sarcastic here. If you want to do it, meditation, do that. It's okay. Thousands of years tak lage raho. But all this has been explained by Krishna in such detail only to discourage us from engaging in this dhyana yoga. And Arjuna says that. Arjuna Uvacha, text number 33. Yoyam yogastaya proktah samyena madhusudana etasyaham napashyami chanchalatvat stitim stiram. Arjuna said, O Madhusudana, there are many names used for Krishna and Arjuna. Krishna sometimes addresses Arjuna as Arjun, sometimes Partha, sometimes Kanteya, sometimes Sabhyasachin, sometimes Dhananjaya. And each name carries an emotion behind it. Similarly, Krishna has addressed various names, Rishikesha, Madhusudana, Arisudana, like that, Madhava, Janardana. So Madhusudana here literally means the killer of the demon Madhu. There was a demon of the name Madhu and Krishna had killed him. So somebody who kills demons. And Madhusudana, why particularly Arjuna is using the name here Madhusudana? Because demons, doubts are also compared to demons. So if we don't kill the doubts, doubts will kill us, just like the demons will kill us. The only duty or the goal of the demons is to destroy others. Similarly, doubts destroy us. So we must get them clarified by approaching the proper authority, as Arjuna is doing here. O Madhusudana, the system of yoga. Now, this is what Arjuna is saying after listening to all that Krishna has explained. And this is Dwapar Yuga. And in Dwapar Yuga, people were more peaceful. They had more control over their mind and senses compared to the people in Kali Yuga. And this is Arjuna, who was most evolved in Dwapar Yuga compared to others. And he's saying, O Madhusudana, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable for me because the mind is restless and unsteady. The mind, it's not very, Krishna ne to bol diya, control your mind and senses and focus on the tip of your nose and do this and focus on me and you will come to perfection. But Arjuna is saying, Baba, but mind is so restless and unsteady. Pehla question ka answer hi galat ho gaya. So how will I solve the other 9 questions? And then he speaks this, one of the most famous verses of the Gita, Chanchalam hi manah Krishna, Pramathi balavat dridam, Tasyaham nigraham manne, Vayur eva sudushkaram. The mind is, he uses 4 words to describe the nature of the mind: restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong. Restless like a monkey. Monkey cannot sit in one place more than few seconds. Turbulent. It's just like we are sitting in the class, but our mind may be thinking of 10 different things, 1,000 different things. Maybe turbulent, a lot of turbulence might be going on all the time for no reason. Obstinate. You tell the mind to do something, will do just the opposite. Very stubborn and very strong. Strong like a mad elephant. There is nothing more powerful and dangerous in the world than the mad elephant. So Arjuna uses 4 words to describe the nature of the mind. And he says, I can control the wind, but I cannot control the mind. Remember, this is Dwapar Yuga and this is Kali Yuga. And he's saying, I can control the wind, but I cannot control the mind. But now so many people nowadays are giving seminars on mind control. They are most famous mind control seminars. And people pay for that. So Arjuna is saying, I can control the wind, but I cannot control the mind. So those people who are giving these seminars on mind control and giving their techniques, methods, so it goes to show that they must be able to control the wind also, na? Because controlling the wind is a lesser difficult task compared to controlling the mind, as according to Arjuna. Those people who are giving techniques, ye karo, wo karo, breathe karo, in and out, that means they must be more powerful than Arjuna and they must be able to control the wind also. Because if somebody can control the mind, he should be able to control the wind also. Impossible. So we are basically showing that we are greater than Arjuna. People who are trying to practice some meditation on breath and this and that and trying to control the mind and applying some techniques. Arjuna is saying it is difficult, more difficult to control it rather than controlling the wind. I can control the wind. Now, to control the wind is very difficult. But Arjuna said, I can do that, but I cannot control the mind. Please understand the power of the mind. Mind becomes the cause of bondage. Mind can also become the cause of liberation if it is under control with proper methods, proper techniques. If we understand the working of the mind, then we'll be able to apply the cure if we can diagnose the disease properly. Mind is like a split personality. If you control it, best friend. If it controls you, most dangerous enemy. We are dealing with an enemy, a powerful enemy. And it cannot come under control just like that. A few things I can discuss with you how to control the mind. There are some temporary solutions and permanent solutions as well. I had spoken about it earlier also in a different seminar on Pavitra. That was Art of Mind Control, dedicated fully to the mind. But I will not go into the details, but I'll talk about the solutions. So mind, see, unless we diagnose a disease, it's very difficult to cure it. So mind is a subtle matter. It's not gross. So with any any medication or counseling, and it may just give us temporary relief. But we have to understand it is subtle. It is there, but we cannot see. And it is divided into two sections: conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Subconscious mind is 90%, and conscious mind is only 10%, which we are aware of. 90% is something that we are not aware of, and that is where the problem lies. It's like a hard disk. Also, so much data is stored. So mind, we have discussed how when the person dies, the gross body is left behind, which is burnt. But the subtle body goes with the soul. Subtle body consists of mind, intelligence, and false ego. So whatever impressions, experiences, desires are stored within the mind, they go with the soul to the next body, to the next destination. And based on those desires and experiences, aspirations, next suitable body is given with a particular set of senses. Could be human or animal, depending on whatever the person has cultivated in terms of desires. So, therefore, all that we have done in millions of lifetimes, whatever we have spent in this universe after we fell from the spiritual world, is there in that subconscious mind. Every now and then one desire pops up and you say, "Ye kahan se aaya?" Some thought pops up, some fear pops up. Where is it coming from? It is all coming from that subconscious mind. So unless those impressions on the subconscious mind are removed, problems will continue. We may get some temporary relief by applying few techniques, but those impressions on the subtle mind have to be washed away. Then the mind will become clean, and cleanliness is naturally synonymous with peace. So how to remove those impressions? There are a few temporary and two permanent techniques I can share with you, which I've always shared. First, to deal with the 10% mind, which is the conscious mind. It's called a triple S formula. One is starve the bad dog, they say. And this involves the special ability that is given to the human beings, the ability to choose. So there are, they say, two dogs sitting within our heart, or we can say, according to the language of the Gita, two types of natures we have: the divine and the demonic, the good dog and the bad dog. Whichever dog you feed the most will become stronger, and other will be starved to death. Whichever nature you feed the most will become stronger, will be nourished. Other one will be starved to death. So how do you nourish the good dog and starve the bad dog? Learn to say no. When some wrong desires arise within our mind, some temptations come, say no. Starve the bad dog. Don't say yes, don't fall. Because as I mentioned, don't take the mind seriously. You are not your mind. Mind ka kaam hai, desires will come, and after some time they'll disappear also. And every time you say no to a temptation, you become stronger. Every time you give in to the temptation, you become weak. So it's up to us now. It may be difficult, but where do we get the strength from to say no? By the association that we keep. Therefore, keep good association with those people who bring out the best in you, who encourage you on the right path, not with those who laugh at you when you're on the right path and they pull you towards the sinful path. So every time you say no, you become stronger. Just like in the gym you go, you become stronger by pushing yourself against some resistance. So resist the temptations. And that ability is there with us. We are not robots or animals. We have the choice. We can always choose. Second is set your sails properly. If you've seen a sailboat, so so the direction of the wind plays a big role where the sailboat has to go if the sailboat wants to reach the destination. So if the direction of the wind is not favorable and there are sails on the boat, so what can we change? Can we change the reality, or can we change the direction of the wind, or can we change the direction of the sails? Naturally, sails direction can be changed. Wind we cannot change. Similarly, there is something called expectation and reality. Gap between expectation and reality is called stress. So we cannot change reality. We can't change the reality of this world. We can't change others. Everybody's born with a particular nature. As we go ahead, we'll talk more about it. So it's difficult to change somebody's nature. It's difficult to change the nature of the world. Ups and downs is the nature of this world. So we have to lower down our expectation. Expect less. That's the only thing we can change. And we should do that if we want to be peaceful. Number 3, stay in the circle of influence. There are 2 circles: circle of influence, circle of concern. Circle of concern consists of those things which are beyond our control. उधर क्या हो रहा है, इधर क्या हो रहा है, उसने ऐसा क्यों बोल दिया, why did she speak like that, why did he do like that, 10,000 miles away this something has happened and we spend the whole day thinking about it. We have no connection with it. Circle of concern. Circle of influence thinks of those things, consists of those things on which we have control. My own behavior, my growth, my response to situations. So, and the amazing thing is both these circles can contract and expand. So whichever circle you focus upon will expand. Whichever circle you don't focus upon will utterly become insignificant. So learn to focus on those things which are within your control, not on things which are beyond your control, which you cannot change. This way you will be relieved of stress. A few other things we can apply is affirmations can really help. But these are all temporary solutions. They will only help you deal with the 10% mind. And one most important thing is focus on your blessings, focus on the good things. It is the nature of the uncontrolled mind to only focus on the negative aspects. Even if you have 1,000 good things, one negativity, one source of negativity, and our mind is totally focused on that if it is uncontrolled. Therefore, I always recommend write down all the good things that you've received in life, put them on a piece of paper, paste it on a mirror, because that's what you see every day for sure. And first thing after you get up, go through that list, because in the morning the mind is fresh. Whatever impressions you make, they stay with you throughout the day. You will be positive throughout the day. And the last thing before you go to sleep, again go through the list of blessings. So train your mind up to focus on the good things, the blessings that you've received, and then you will understand that how blessed you are. Millions out there are dying to live the life that we already have. People do not have home, do not have meals, do not have shelter. In rainy season, they are living in hell. And here we have everything and still we are cribbing. So we have to understand, we have to be grateful for whatever we have. Because we do not have gratitude for all the things that we have received, so we keep cribbing, we keep complaining. And that makes us miserable. But these are all temporary solutions. Ultimately, the main problem lies with the 90% subconscious mind. And that is the impressions, desires, everything. How can those impressions be destroyed? So if you know how a washing powder acts on a stained cloth, it goes inside, forms a layer around the dirt, pulls it out. Similarly, mind in Hindi is called man, and the solution is also given in the scriptures for the mind, mantra. The most powerful way to control the mind is mantra. Manas trayate iti mantra. That which liberates the mind is called mantra. This is the definition of mind. Sorry, mantra. And which mantra to be chanted? Kali Santran Upanishad specifically mentions, and Narad Muni was told by Brahmaji that I've gone through all the scriptures and I could only find solution that only the names of God will work in Kali Yuga. And Narad Muni asked, so which names should be chanted in particular? There are many names the Lord has. Then Brahmaji recited this Maha Mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. So if you chant this mantra regularly, and there are no hard and fast rules, you can chant it walking, sitting, before taking bath, after taking bath. But there's only one rule: try to hear the mantra, and in that also mind will wander away. But gently, when you realize, bring the mind back again, focus on the sound, and the mind will become very, very peaceful. It will be pacified easily. And this sound vibration, because mind is subtle, so you need something subtle to destroy those impressions within the mind. So when this sound of God's name, therefore we say when you chant, try to hear the mantra, that sound enters through the ears, destroy those impressions within, pulls them out. And when your mind becomes clean, naturally you become happy. As long as the mind is not clean, it cannot be cooperating, you can't be experiencing that happiness. Distress will not go away. Most powerful. And then second thing is, as I mentioned in the beginning, think what is right, know what is right, and do what is right. Don't do what the mind tells us to do. And that needs stronger intelligence. The function of the intelligence is to discriminate. Function of the mind is to never discriminate, only look into the past. Oh, past mein acha tha to abhi bhi acha hoga, let me do it. But the function of the intelligence to discriminate. And intelligence is superior to mind, but we have forgotten that. We have given the mind complete control. So the way to strengthen intelligence, it is mentioned, is scriptural study. Regularly study scriptures like Gita, Bhagavatam, Ramayana. There is a famous management guru, Stephen Covey. He writes in his books that if somebody wants to maintain his sanity in this world, he's not even an Indian, not even a devotee. Or that he says one must read books like Mahabharata and Ramayana. He is writing. So regularly read scriptures, even if you don't understand. It'll give you so much strength and nourishment. Just like you don't need to remember what you had in lunch 10 days back. You don't need to remember the recipe. Important thing was you ate and it gave you strength, kept you going. Similarly, sometimes people say, oh, I don't understand, so I don't read. No, just spend time with the scripture, even if you don't understand. Hear from the devotees when they're explaining scriptures. It will strengthen your intelligence so much that you'll be able to take the right decisions in life. Just like a sword which is sharpened can make the right impact. So this way, these are the two permanent solutions: chanting of the Mahamantra and study of scripture, study or hearing of scriptures. Spend time, and gradually the mind will automatically be good. As Krishna says in the next verse, Krishna also acknowledges this is God. When he acknowledges something, it must be true. He says, yes, it is indeed. Asansyam Mahabaho. Mano Durnigraham Chalam Abhyasena tu Kante Vairagya Chakate. But through the process of Gyan and Vairagya, practice and detachment, mind can be controlled. So when we discuss these solutions, the first part was 10% mind wala Vairagya part, and the second two solutions, the permanent solutions, is the part called practice. So unless we practice, we will not get the realization. Unless we get realization, our faith will not increase. So this is the best method to control the mind, time tested. Now further, Arjuna asked, okay, you're talking about becoming a yogi by mind control, sense control. So Arjuna asked a valid question, but what Krishna if somebody fails? If somebody is walking on this path and he fails, somebody is trying to become a yogi, then what is his destination? A failed yogi. Because this is a difficult path, it's not easy, specifically talking about mind control, sense control. And so what is the destination of an unsuccessful yogi? Very hope giving this part is, like many of us might be thinking, we have started walking on this path of Krishna consciousness, but we don't do much, or we have not done much. What is our destination? Listen to what Krishna has to say. He says, if a person gets deviated, in the second chapter, Krishna has already explained, Neha Vikramanashavasti Pratyavayo na vidyate Swa Alpamapiyasya Dharmasya Trayate Mahato Bhayat. That on this path, please understand, there's no loss or diminution. Whatever advancement you make, it will become your permanent asset. It will stay with you. It will go with the soul also. And it will protect you from the greatest dangers in life. Two things Krishna has spoken. So what is the fate of an unsuccessful yogi? One who starts walking, but he fails. He dies before it is complete, 100%. He gets distracted by Maya. Krishna is so possessive of his devotees. He says, doesn't matter. And he's so grateful. He said, once somebody starts walking, there's only one thing to gain. I mean, he's only going to gain, never going to lose. There's only one way he's going, up, up, up. He says if somebody falls down from his practice after a short span of time, then he will go to the heavenly planets after he dies. And suppose he dies before completing, or in the middle only he leaves the process. Because he has started walking on this path, minimum, Krishna says, he will first go to the heavenly planets, enjoy there for 10,000 years, all the riches, everything, all the opulences, all kinds of enjoyment. After that, he will take birth in the home of some rich aristocracy, a rich family, aristocratic family, and then he will continue from where he left off. Just see the benefit. So all of you, your human birth is guaranteed minimum, and your heavenly enjoyment is also guaranteed. Even if you're attending the session for the first time, you've been attending for some time and you're not able to complete it also. Even if a person has done, say, 1% on this path, these are the facilities awaiting. Minimum heavenly enjoyment for 10,000 years. This is Krishna said. I'm not making it up. And then after that, he'll be born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. The unsuccessful yogi, after many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, that means one who is trying to connect with Krishna but who has failed. I mean, not completed 100%. Advancement is also 1%, 2%. We gradually advance. After many years of enjoyment on the planets of the pious living entities, is born into a family of the righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. So minimum human birth is guaranteed, but before that, heavenly enjoyment is guaranteed. So rest assured, be happy. Throw a party, virtual only, but. And if somebody falls down, suppose somebody becomes perfect, so he goes to spiritual world, to Krishna, live a life of eternal bliss and knowledge, live with a family forever, spiritual family. There are countless living entities, families, palaces, everything that you see in this world is present in the spiritual world, but in its purest form. This world is a reflection of that original world. It's a perverted reflection, but everything is there. If you sometimes wondering what is there in spiritual world, all that you see here, but in its purest form. You will have a family, you'll have no separation from them. There will be no old age, disease, or death. That's why it's called Vaikuntha. Kuntha means misery, a place beyond misery. And Krishna says, if somebody falls down after long practice, then he takes his birth in the homes of great devotees of Krishna. And and such a birth, Krishna says, is very rare in this world. It is very rare to be born in the family where Krishna culture is prevalent. Children, Prabhupada said, those who are born in such families, please understand, they are not ordinary children. They are devotees from their past lives. And therefore, right from the childhood only, the children have been given these facilities. So somebody falls on after a long practice, he will be born in the homes of great devotees of the Lord, where Krishna culture is prevalent, right from the beginning. And Krishna says he will revive his divine consciousness of his previous life. Naturally, spontaneously, as a child only, that person will get attracted towards Krishna. and then he'll continue to make further progress. So essentially, whether somebody has completed 5%. So Krishna says heavenly planets, then in the right is a rich aristocratic family, and he'll continue from where he left off. So he'll continue from 6%. Everything else we achieve in this world, we have to begin from ABCD only, even if you've done triple PhD in this lifetime. Everything you have to earn again, work hard. But spiritual assets, suppose you have made 5% advancement, next life will begin from 6%. And Krishna says somebody who's done a long practice, on taking such a birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, naturally, spontaneously gets attracted to Krishna Bhakti, the such children, and he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success. By virtue of the divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. So such persons you will find, they will not be attracted to the ritualistic principles of the Veda. They will only be attracted by the process of devotional service. So now Krishna summarizes a yogi, that means yogi कौन है? अभी कृष्णा बताएंगे. A yogi, अभी तक उन्होंने थोड़ा जरा सा बताया, somebody is trying to connect with him. A yogi is greater than ascetic. Ascetic is simply doing tapasya for some powers. A yogi is greater than ascetic, greater than the empiricist who is trying to understand mental speculation, and greater than the fruitive worker, one who is engaging in activities to get something in return. Therefore, O Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi. That in all circumstances, try to connect with me, whatever you're doing. And then Krishna gives his opinion in the last verse. And in my opinion, first he tells through Arjuna to all of us, in all circumstances, whether you're doing karma, dhyana, jnana, whatever, try to be a yogi. That means let me be the goal of everything that you're doing. And then Krishna says, and in my opinion, the greatest yogi kaun hai? Yogi naam sarvesham madgate nantaratmana shraddhavan bhajate mam samayuktatamo matah. He says, in my opinion, of all the yogis, the one with great faith, yogis may be jitne bhi hain, who are trying to connect with me, who is the highest, Krishna gives his opinion. And of all the yogis, the one with great faith, who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, and renders transcendental loving service unto me. That means who thinks of the Lord within his heart always, engages in devotional service. He is the most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. That is my opinion. So that means somebody who's directly engaging in his service and is, while working in this world also, is constantly thinking of him. That person is the greatest yogi. Now, in Dhyana Yoga mein kya tha? Person has to force himself to think of Krishna. But somebody who's spontaneously thinking with love and at the same time engaging in devotional service, that person is the highest yogi. And that is what we must be aspiring to become. That 24/7, whatever we do, we are doing it as a service to Krishna. And inside we are thinking of him, and externally we are doing our prescribed duties as well, but as dedicated to him. This way we will also become the greatest yogis. And when we depart from this world, automatically, because the yogis have the power to transfer themselves to whichever planet they like. And that's how they leave their body. They think of that place and they are transferred, because the last thought decides where we go. So if we are constantly thinking of the Lord in our heart, trying to be a yogi, and during our activities also, prescribed duties also, offering them as an act of devotion to him, doing everything as an offering to him, Tera Tujhko Arpan, like that, and living in that consciousness, then at the last moment also we'll be able to think of him and be transferred to the spiritual abode. Hare Krishna. I'll stop here. This is the chapter called Dhyana Yoga. Krishna does not recommend Dhyana Yoga, but recommends thinking of him always as we are engaged in devotional service. Hare Krishna. Shall we stop here, Priyaji?
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I don't think so. There is one question by Devang. Prabhuji, please can you repeat the third before you wind up?
Third what?
Third shloka must, I don't know.
I don't
Third
know.
S.
Third S.
Yeah.
Stay in the circle of influence, not the circle of concern.
Yeah.
Things on which we have control. Okay?
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Have a Pavitra day.
Thank you.